My name's LaVonda Davis. I'm a Supervising Probation Officer for Riverside County Probation. I have been a breast cancer survivor for 2 years. I probably noticed about February of 2020 that I had discharge. And so at that time, you noticed that the hospitals were turning people away. They were saying don't go in. So I was just like, oh, let me wait a bit before I schedule an appointment with my primary doctor. I went in for a mammogram probably the very first week of July. After that appointment, they asked me if I had time, they wanted to do a biopsy. And so I said, yeah, of course. So I did a biopsy, and then 2 weeks later, I got the call at work saying, you've been diagnosed with breast cancer. I was diagnosed with ductal carcinoma in situ, and it was stage 3 at the time. Ductal carcinoma, it is the cancer started in your ducts. My grandmother actually had breast cancer and ended up getting one of her breasts removed. I want to say years back, kind of let my primary doctor know and see if that was cause enough for me to start getting earlier mammograms. And she indicated it would need to have been like a parent or a sibling, someone closer to me. So the treatment process, I know when you're diagnosed, you come in, they assign you a nurse practitioner, which is really helpful because she basically stays with you your whole time. And so you go in, you meet with your cancer surgeon, and then at that time, you also decide, he goes over what you've been diagnosed with, what are your treatment options, whether you want to do a lumpectomy, whereas they just take that part of cancer out, or do you want to do a mastectomy, which is they remove all the tissue from that side of your breast? Or is this something that your type of cancer, you have to do chemo, you have to do radiation? So I decided to do a double mastectomy because there still is a chance that it will return on the other side. And so for the purposes of just making sure it doesn't come back, in the sense that I got rid of both sides of tissue, and then also for the reconstruction side, I was 33, so that also was a big part for me too. After this is done, after I take care of the cancer side of it, can we make sure that it looks the same afterwards? So after the first surgery, that's when they do the double mastectomy, and they put an expander in your chest. And basically what that does is that allows you to still feel feminine. And so it's kind of like inside your chest, and it gives you like a little bump until you heal. And then once you start healing, you go into surgery. They slowly start to expand it to the size that you want. Well, at that time, after the first surgery, I got an infection, so I had to go back in, and then they had to take away, my margins didn't clear for the cancer, and so then they had to go back in and take out more, getting closer to like my skin area. And so then after that surgery, you go into the reconstruction surgeries. But then I also got an infection during reconstruction surgeries. So then that set me back. So then I had to get expanders removed and then replaced, and then start and try reconstruction all over again. So overall, it took about 7 surgeries. So I never got sad, but it did get frustrating. And it takes a toll because you start missing work. And while no one complained, everyone understood why I was missing work, it just becomes, tiring, to constantly go into surgery. So to do 7 in like a 2.5 year span, it just became a lot. Support, it was good in that, I had a lot of support at work with coworkers, if there's anything I can do, if there's any help, family. I had family and friends helping me, whether that's taking me to my appointments or picking me up from surgeries or helping me during my recovery phases after my surgeries. So I had one friend who was able to be with me for a whole month. She came from a different state, stayed with me a whole month to help me recover. And I think that had COVID not slowed people down, I wouldn't have had that support at home after the surgeries. having friends connect me with other breast cancer survivors or other women that were going through breast cancer, it kind of made me feel like, you know what, although what I'm going through is bad, I have to be thankful that, I'm not having to do chemo. I didn't have to do radiation. Like, I just missed having to do those aspects. And so for that, I felt like I could not complain. And I just wanted to be positive and just be thankful for that I had the strength to get through the type that I was diagnosed with. So I have been in remission since 2021. And I think now that I'm in it, part of what your doctors do, I go in every 6 months. So they check every 6 months to make sure nothing's returned. I think it's important that when I notice any signs or if I feel funny, I make sure I reach out to my primary doctor, just making sure that I communicate and making sure I am mindful. So if there is something wrong, that it doesn't get bigger because I waited so long to go in. And I think that's the most important part. Being a survivor to me means that I went through something, I've experienced something that I can now help someone else get through, that I can share with someone else, I can support someone else in their diagnosis in any way that they want to. So I am going to be sitting on some panels to kind of tell my story and kind of help anyone else that is newly diagnosed. And just to maintain health, I think that, it's better to make sure you pay attention to your body. It took me a little bit to go in, even though I noticed a symptom. I didn't know it was breast cancer, but sometimes we're like, oh, it's okay, it'll go away. So I'm more mindful that if there is something going on, and a lot of the times when you hear about breast cancer, they say do your self-exams, you could have a lump, but I didn't have a lump. I had discharge, and I didn't even know that discharge meant you could have breast cancer. And so it is very interesting because breast cancer does look different, and the symptoms, you might have one, you might not have one. And so definitely just going and seeing when you can get a mammogram and when you feel comfortable to do so, because it doesn't mean that you will have a sign that says I have breast cancer. So it is important to see if you're able to get a mammogram, especially if it is a history in your family. If I would have been detected a few months later and it got into my tissue, then I would have had to do chemo. Definitely the biggest thing you could do is understanding your body, and then going to the doctor if you find something or you notice something that is normally not there is there. I think that's huge. And I know a lot of times we say, oh, it'll go away, it'll heal. But I do think it's important to go in. There was even times when after my surgeries, I wasn't feeling well, and I was just like, oh, I'll sleep it off. Oh, I'll sleep it off. And it turned out to be a big thing where I had to go into other surgeries. So it's definitely, you have to know your body, and you have to not be afraid to go into the doctor.